Okay, we start right on time here at Beyond the Boardroom for our webinar Wednesdays. It's 11:40, and we are here doing the last course, the CE for ELE of the day. So thank you all for being here with us. If you're coming in from the morning, welcome. If you're coming back because you were part of the HRA and OPP from this morning, welcome back. I'm Diane Michael. Me and my friend, and who is also a CAM, Lindsay Lombardi, created Beyond the Boardroom about 2 years ago. And our goal was or is to educate board members and CAMs in an easy way at your desk, on your mobile, while you're traveling. We know how important education and CE credits are, and that's exactly why we decided to launch this program. We started on the fourth Wednesday of each month and have already grown to now offer CE credits on the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month. So please mark your calendars for the next webinar Wednesday happening on June 10th. And then keep watching for the emails. So we send one email once a week from Beyond the Boardroom at minimum to talk about what's coming up for the classes. And in that email, it has all kinds of information on our vendors, our presenters rather. It has links to more information about credits for board members and for CAMs. It has video link to all past presentations because a lot of people always ask about those. So be sure you're getting a newsletter at least once a week. And if you're not getting them, go to your junk mail or your spam and find our email and save us as safe senders and remove us from junk. Let the system know that we're not spam so that you don't miss any important updates. Okay, so I like to show the presenters where everyone is coming in from. So Cams, if you will show Eddie where you're coming in from in the chat today, we would greatly appreciate that. Go ahead and tell us where you're coming in from on the chat. Okay, we got Punta Gorda, Longwood, Boynton. Everybody can see these. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my friend and our next presenter, Eddie Bone, with Azure Pool and Deck Design. Eddie began his career in the pool business fresh out of college when he was recruited to join the management training program at Pool Corp, a national chain of swimming pool distributors. He spent the next 9 years learning the business side of swimming pools, product sales, construction, and maintenance, moving with Pool Corp from Minneapolis to Georgia to ultimately then Naples, where he became a branch manager and sales center manager of SCP of Southwest Florida. At SCP, Eddie and his wife Kylie witnessed the joy and excitement a new pool and a patio remodel can give homeowners and decided to open their own family business. Eddie also saw a lot of mistakes being made by contractors, and UCAMs and board members can relate. They saw a lack of communication, poor workmanship, and all of those things resulting in expensive change orders and charges for customers. And that's why Azure offers 3D renderings of every remodel so homeowners and commercial properties can visualize a project before construction begins. Over the years, Eddie and Kylie have had the opportunity to meet and work with the best swimming pool contractors in Southwest Florida, recruiting only the most reliable and best at their craft for Azure Pool and Deck Design. Eddie has been with Webinar Wednesday for the past 2 months, just talking a little bit about the pool industry and the season that we're in as we were waiting for the DBPR to approve his courses. So today is his first official course, and we're so happy to have you. Welcome, Eddie.
Thank you for having me. See a lot of people from our backyard here. Last couple of Webinar Wednesdays, we've had people from all over the state, but I've seen lots of Naples and Marco Island, Sanibel. Anyway, thank you all for having me here. I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to let me tell you a little bit about myself and give you a little bit of my background and some of my knowledge to help make your jobs hopefully easier going into the future. As Diane said, my background has been in the swimming pool industry since 2009. I started with the world's largest pool and spa wholesale distributor. They are a Covington, Louisiana-based company, publicly traded, and they have over 400 branches in the United States, another 100 across other countries throughout the world. It was a great training grounds for me to really learn how products should be installed, and where that comes in my own business. And what I'm going to work with you today is proper installation techniques, budgeting the job correctly, and ultimately, for you CAMs, is giving your residents a pool area that's going to last for years to come, because we all know that, you guys get in the mix with the contractors and everything else. And if it gets messy, the first people that are to blame are typically the CAMs, because they're setting up all of these RFPs, et cetera. So if I can help you guys even make, one day of your life a little bit easier, I'm happy to do so. Hey, Diane, can you tell me, can everybody see my presentation, or do I need to change the display?
Oh, it looks good. Yeah,
All right, everybody can see it. Okay. Today's course, The Art of Saying No When CAMs Should Delay, Decline, or Redesign Pool Projects. The point of today's course is to help you guys better navigate both the bid process as well as the process of construction itself. Remodel construction is not like new construction. When you have remodel construction, the likelihood that you will have things come up, change orders, et cetera, during the scope of the job is pretty likely. So being prepared on the front end and knowing what to look for will help you save face, will help you budget properly, so that your big projects like this, which, let's be realistic, when you talk about remodeling a community commercial pool, that's not a small number. So that's typically, depending on the community size, going to take up a big chunk of that annual budget. So today's course is going to be helping prepare you guys to do some better decision-making skills on that end. Oops. A couple of things to talk about first. Recognizing red flags. When you are sending out RFPs, you are obviously going to be comparing everybody's bids, and you're going to have some bids that are very vague, and you will have bids that are very detailed. But at the end of the day, when you are comparing the bids, you want to make sure that everything is matching up with that RFP. And it would be wise, at least on the front end, to either talk with a commercial pool professional, get a consultant on the job to maybe help specify that RFP, or a civil engineer that specializes in pool construction. They can both put the type of language in that RFP to help protect the community when it comes to the bidding process. And that's kind of where we get into lack of engineering professional reports. I know you guys heard from Will at Aqua Leak Detection this morning. Shout out to Will. Having a pre-construction leak detection done before construction starts, or even on an annual basis for the community, will help you know upfront additional possible surprises that you may, undergo. If you've got a pool return line in the shallow end, or any of the gutter drains along the perimeter of the swimming pool that are leaking, all of these can cause damage beyond just fixing the return. When you've got ongoing leaks, it will begin to degrade concrete, et cetera. So when you've got those types of professional reports, leak detections, inspections from a commercial pool professional, like a consultant on the job, before you start, so that you can put together that RFP and identify all the items that are going to be most important on that job, it will pay off dividends in the long run, in both getting the board members a solid scope of work, a solid budget, and possible do not exceed numbers, which you may need for change orders, et cetera, down the road. Ultimately, will help your projects move forward, and you will achieve completion faster than if all of these things are surprises in the middle of the job. One of the things that hits home quite frequently, at least in our area, and the area that we serve, is going to be Fort Myers down to Marco, in terms of the community projects. So anything from essentially Colonial Boulevard in Fort Myers, and those that are in the Southwest Florida area know what I'm talking about, down to Marco. We do serve Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, and Bonita Beach. Just so anybody that's attending, if you'd like to reach out after, if you have questions, these are the areas that we do serve. And for those of you that are out of our area, we are working on something for you, possibly down the road on a consultation basis, and we'll release more information to Diane as we have that. But back to what I was saying, the unrealistic timelines that are given by pressure to contractors, and why I say this hits home is we've lost projects locally to other contractors coming in saying they could get the job done. We don't end up getting the work, and we're very transparent when it comes to permits, et cetera, and the actual job timing so that you guys can prepare your residents. But there are contractors that will go and complete the jobs without permits. So if you're not checking behind them to make sure a permit's pulled or that you have a permit posted on site, odds are they probably didn't. But they will put the pressure on you to sign the contract with them, let you know, oh, well, we might not need a permit for this, etc. Do your due diligence. Make sure that you're checking on top of them. Anybody over 30 doors on their building will need a permit by both the county as well as the Department of Health. If you're under 30 doors, you're not regulated by the Department of Health, but you will still need a permit for the construction work by the local county. Commercial is different than residential, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you have a commercial body of water, even a resurface requires a permit. But like I said, if you have less than 30 doors, you're not required to file additional permits with the Department of Health or have it inspected by the Department of Health. Missing or unclear funding sources, just do your due diligence, ask for references, talk to the clients, the contractors about previous communities they've worked in, make sure they're not fly-by-nights. There are a lot of crews that are running around locally. There's tons of unlicensed contracting. Just do your due diligence on the contractors that you hire and make sure who you've hired has had their background checked and they're going to pass all the normal inspections. This first photo kind of gets into hiring the wrong people and rushing timelines. And then in addition, the scopes of work and making sure they all line up. Our photo on the top left, and Diana, are they able to see my cursor if I move it over there?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Okay.
can see it here. Yes.
All right. So if I'm pointing at photos, they can see it. All right. Just want to make sure because
Yes.
I'll refer to photos in the slides so we can kind of talk about each one.
Yeah,
But
thanks for asking. I had to confirm. Yes.
Yep. All right. Good deal. So as you can see, we've got some pretty rough looking construction sites here. These were all local jobs. The one my cursor is over is on Fort Myers Beach. This is also a Fort Myers Beach job and a Fort Myers Beach job. But this pool had been remodeled 3 different times. Over the progression of the remodel projects, work was just built on top of other work. Tile was installed on top of other tile. You can see this orange right here. This is actually a Spanish tile that is 30 years old that was never removed. And then you can see the contractor following that installed rebar through the tile, which is not proper practice. And due to it not being installed properly, you can see that the rebar is completely rusted and fallen apart. There wasn't proper bonding. This is called the bond beam here. So they installed rebar on top of tile, poured concrete, poured more tile on top of it. You can see the different layers. This is the same job here. The different layers of tile. There's the Spanish tile hiding underneath the waterline tile. And there was another layer of tile behind this. So again, the point I'm trying to make here is making sure that everybody is aligned on your RFP is going to prevent work like this. Making sure that if there is tile existing underneath that is getting removed, because when you install tile on top of tile in a swimming pool, it will fall apart. A lot of crews will tell you that you can take a grinder and run it across the tile and install your new tile. Absolutely not. It is not an acceptable installation practice. Every tile manufacturer that we all install in the area, every supplier in the area specs the exact same installation techniques. They all refer to the exact same code books in terms of the tile installation, and none of them authorize tile to be installed on top of tile. An engineer would never allow us to drill through tile and tie rebar into it. None of this is proper installation practice, but happens all the time. So putting together a really good RFP will help protect you. And then again, keeping an eye on the projects that are going along once you sign these people up. Either if you have a committee or it's on you, staying on top of these guys and watching or hiring, a consultant or a specialist to oversee the project for you. If it's a massive project, it would be worthwhile looking at what the consultation fees would go for to stay on top of and manage a project. So next thing I wanted to talk about was budget cycles versus construction reality. Everybody I know does reserve studies annually. Those are extremely helpful. Make sure when you get into doing a reserve study on a swimming pool that you get with a civil engineer that specializes in doing swimming pools. And then if that engineer has contractors that they work with or recommend that would be willing to put together estimates for you, et cetera, that will really help you look at usable life of the swimming pool, which just so everybody knows, the interior finish, that would be the bottom, what most people call pebble or gem or diamond bright, has a 5-year warranty on commercial. Every manufacturer specifies the exact same warranty on commercial. They are 5 years on their surface warranty. So good thing to note when it comes to reserve studies. Your warranty is only good for 5 years by the manufacturer, and they're only going to warrant the material itself, not the installation. Different from what the contract is going to state from your contractor, because he'll state his warranty on the labor portion, which could vary based on what their contract states. But putting together that reserve study, making sure you've got that engineer or contractor to help you put together what those real costs are, will really help you in the long run for budgeting that money along the way for when you're actually ready to complete the renovation. Obviously, when we talk about reserve studies, you guys know how to handle that, whether it be a special assessment, which if you're doing your reserve studies right and you're doing your RFP process right, the only time you would really run into a special assessment on a major construction project would be on a change order. But hopefully, if we've done our due diligence on the front end, you can minimize those types of things when it comes along the project. Inflation and material cost fluctuations. I think we all can relate to what that feels like. We've all seen the climbing prices of everything from gas to groceries. We all know construction prices have gone crazy, and especially with everything going on at the pump right now, construction prices, I would anticipate, will go up because, everything to get it to the job site, the shipping, the freight, whether it be by boat, et cetera, are all affected by those things. So we will see cost increases. And a lot of times when you guys are looking at projects, it's typically not something that's going to happen a month from now, unless it's just a repair. So my next slide here kind of goes into one of the projects that we had handled recently. This was within the last year, and it just kind of wanted to show everybody what the timeline was on this project from the day we initially went out there to the day that the project was sold. And then I've got our build schedule here as well. But the project lead from the first communication to the day the contract was signed with us was 470 days. So to put that in perspective for everybody, when you're doing your reserve studies and your budgeting, 470 days, a lot can happen in 470 days. And I know most people will do their reserve studies and they'll get bids, et cetera, and they typically do it for the next season. Hopefully you're doing it that way. But just remember before you're signing contracts with everybody to get everybody to rebid that project again. Have another look at it because a lot can happen in a year, especially on a commercial pool, because there is so much more wear and tear on a commercial body of water than your typical residential swimming pool, which, at least in our area, very few people actually use. It just becomes more of a fixture in their backyard. But the community pools get lots and lots of use. They have lots and lots of chemicals that are dumped in there. So the wear and tear is much higher. But yeah, if you look, 470 days from first meeting to when we signed, and then the actual construction project was another 12 weeks before we were finished. So that's a lot. And this was a major construction project out on Sanibel. That particular pool, and I think I've got it here in the next slide. Oh, no. All right, I didn't include photos on that one. But that particular project, we found 5 layers of tile and finish on their spa and 4 layers of tile and finish on their swimming pool. That is a lot of material to haul out. That is a lot of material. Let me look here. Actually, here we go. This photo right here shows I had 3 inches of material to remove off the wall on a swimming pool that was almost 2,000 square feet. That is a lot of material to chip out, haul off. And then when you remove that much material, that affects all of your elevations and your depths in your pool. So then we have to go and correct for all of that. And so, like I said, it just kind of refers back to, my original point on making sure everybody's quoting the same scope of work, staying on top of the contractors, because the last thing you want is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of finish and tile on your pool, because this caused long-term damage on this pool that ultimately ended up having to be remedied when we were all done. The other photos here on the right-hand side were a project here in Fort Myers. The community ended up doing a drain and acid wash on the swimming pool after Hurricane Ian. And then during the drain and acid wash, they found out, and you can see here where this material has cleanly broken away, they had delamination on the surface. And what that is, basically the new surface has not bonded to the old surface of the pool shell. They didn't use the proper preparation techniques, proper preparation products to install the new finish. And ultimately the finish began to peel away from the concrete. And they found that out after trying to clean the pool during Ian. And, it ended up costing them a good amount of money. And this, we're not talking about, on the initial contractor, for him to have prepped and done this right. I mean, we're talking about maybe $800-900 in material. But if the details aren't specified in the RFP and ultimately in the contract for them to use, good prep products, et cetera, then, we open the doors for these types of, material failures and installation failures to happen. You can see even here, this dark band underneath here was the old tile, which was never removed. Same pool here, another photo, another spot. But you can see there was a layer of tile and a layer of finish, and then another layer of finish. And, like I said, when you start getting into installation, when installations are done like this, you are opening the door for failures on this job. So again, going back to making sure everybody's RFPs and contracts are all specifying the same scope of work, what to do when delamination is found, additional layers of tile, etc. Making sure everybody's on the same page is going to be crucial to making sure your project is a success and will last for years to come. So one of the things that I'm sure everybody can relate to is having too many cooks in the kitchen. You'll have the CAM on the project, you'll have the board president on the project, you might have a special committee on the project, but ultimately, if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people directing the project, you're going to create confusion. Confusion is going to cost you both time and money. So making sure that your project has the designated contact person for the project, for the information to go to, is going to be huge. And if your contractor that you're hiring has a project management software that can streamline that for you, even better. Our company uses a software called Buildertrend. Buildertrend allows us to attach multiple emails. So we have both the CAM as well as several board members, including presidents, and an email for invoices to go to. Our software specifies who gets what, so the wrong people aren't getting the wrong things. But this will help you actively manage the project. And this is the difference between a good contractor and a great contractor. And you may notice the difference in your quote. So ask those types of questions when you're bidding these projects out. Do you have a project management software? Who's going to be our point person on site? What do we do when it comes to change orders? How are change orders handled? And then you'll obviously have to do the same thing on the board side. When change orders are presented, who's our ultimate decision maker? Who's signing off on these, making sure that those people are getting the proper information? Again, like I said, our software allows us to add as many people as we need to so that it's not left up to the CAM to send all the information. This is what we call a daily log. This is done on all of our projects. Anybody, so like here, there's 5 people attached to this project. On the customer side, on a daily basis, they are getting both photos of the project underway as well as notes along the way from this project. So this daily log specifically says, I reviewed all of the issues that were discovered yesterday with Adrian on site and explained amounts of extra work and repair that were going to be required to make everything right. I also showed her where Island Management claimed they had put concrete around the skimmers and the spa, and they didn't. So the skimmers are basically floating in the ground in sand and will need to be reinstalled properly to prevent any kind of leaks. The crew's been instructed to continue demolition as they're waiting to approve change orders for the additional work. But the entire board and committee on this project got all of this information. We established who our point person is on the front end and who the change orders were going to, who the invoicing was going to, so that when this type of stuff comes up, we've got a very streamlined channel of communication. The right people are getting the information right off the bat, because what can happen with change orders is they will stall your job. If you're, trying to deliberate on, whether or not to approve, again, that's where maybe having a consultant on the project to help advise you along the way. Hey, is this necessary? Is it not? It will help you guys kind of streamline that process. And again, just kind of what I was talking about, preventing delays. Obviously, you guys have a lot of people to answer to. It's not a residential project. You have boards, you have, in a lot of cases, Facebook pages that are out there. You have committees, and you have all of the residents that live in your community that are watching these projects happen. So being able to communicate to everybody about what's going on in the project, especially when change orders come up, to prevent, extended delays is going to be in everybody's best interest. And then again, documenting via a change order, via photographs, via messages, or like what we had, daily logs for all of those people will help keep the stream of work moving. Again, things like daily logs, and I know everybody has got AI and ChatGPT. Those types of things can easily be loaded into AI to help explain to your community, what's going on with the pool to try and make it more simple, easier to understand. And, feel free to ask your contractors too. Hey, can you explain this to me again? I've got to answer to, an entire committee. I've got to answer to residents. People have questions about what's going on. What did you find? If you don't understand, ask to be walked through it on the job site. I can't tell you how many times on commercial projects, we've just taken the cam down into the swimming pool so that we can walk them through firsthand. Here's what's going on in the pool. Here's the problems we found. Here's what's caused them. Here's our ways of solving it. We can do this method or this method. And sometimes you only have one way to fix a problem that you've come across. But, ask, hey, is there anything else we can do? It's not going to hurt to ask. Is there another way that we could handle this? Because I know you guys have a huge budget to watch. So obviously looking out for your residents and your board members in terms of the budget is huge. And then handling vendor pushback. Other than pausing the job, you should not feel pressured to sign a change order until everybody has had a chance to digest what's going on the job and fully understands the scope of work that's going to be executed. And like I said, sometimes that will involve you asking a consultant or a civil engineer, hey, is this what's best? And if the scope of work is requiring an engineer on the approval, ask, hey, would I be able to discuss with this engineer what they're, if that's what the work, needs. So don't feel like you need to get bullied into approving change orders. Make sure you fully understand the scope of work and ask questions as much as you possibly can. And that kind of leads into when to redesign instead of proceeding. This can be taken two ways, in the middle of the project or on the front end. If you've got too many bids that are not aligned and nobody seems to have the same scope of work or specified scope of work, pause, go back to the drawing board. Maybe the RFP needs adjustment. Maybe people don't understand the RFP that was put in place. Again, the budget expectation versus what is reality. Everybody knows that once you open a permit on a commercial swimming pool, you have more things to answer to on a resurface than just the pool finish on the resurface. Once you open a permit on a pool, you will open the door for inspections of every single part of that pool area, your signage, your safety heaving lines, your shepherd's hooks, your pool rules, the electrical in your pool equipment room. And you can ask for inspections by both the city and the Department of Health before the work even begins to see if you're within compliance on these things. So additional items where you could possibly add to your RFP on the front end to prevent delays in the long run and put together a solid budget for your project. And then again, long-term maintenance considerations, when we get into the equipment room, hey, we're doing all of this work. And like I said, when you're doing a construction project on a commercial pool, we're not talking about a small number. So if adding a chemical feeder system or more efficient pumps, etc., makes sense, you're already approving a big number. And some of these items will begin to pay back dividends over their lifespan. Chemical feeders, variable speed pumps, LED lights, all of these things will either save you wear and tear, save you headache and missed days because of Department of Health inspections, or they'll save you electricity, which will ultimately end up helping pay for a very small portion of the project. But, it's payback nonetheless. you're opening the door to do these big projects. You should be looking at everything. So I wanted to give time for both evaluations, and I know especially the last two times we've had a lot of questions because swimming pools are just kind of one of those things that are new to lots of people because we have so many transplants down to this area. But it's something that you guys have to deal with every single day. So move into evaluations and then leave some time for some Q&A.
Sounds good.
So we are going to...
I'm going to open chat up so that everyone can type in their responses and we'll just watch them as you go through, but we usually speed through this pretty fast.
Okay. So question number 1. What is a major red flag?
Okay, everyone, chat is open. Go ahead and put all those. Oh, we got a lot of the same answer coming in. And if you're looking at your chat, you can clearly see everyone saying B. Okay, let's see what it is. Yeah.
B.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, just going back to it, again, that RFP on the front end and getting a consultant or a civil engineer to help you put together that RFP is going to save you a lot of hassle and headache in the long run. It will help your project streamline. It's going to get everybody on the same page and ultimately is going to be good for your contractor that you go under contract with to get the job done. Question number 2. What aligns projects best? Resident pressure, budget cycle, vendor timeline, or weather?
Okay, we got conflicting answers. What is it?
Correct answer is budget cycle. Question number 3. Rushed approvals often lead to A, savings, B, warranty issues, C, better quality, D, faster results.
Okay, looks like on this one, everyone is unanimous on B.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Rushed approvals are only going to lead to issues in the long run. Yeah, absolutely. Take your time, do your due diligence, do your research. CYA.
CYA.
Question number 4. CAM role primarily is rubber stamp, gatekeeper.
CAM role usually is CYA.
Yes.
D.
Gatekeeper, contractor, or designer. Yeah. Everybody's on the same page. Yeah. You guys are looking out for the residents. You are the first line of defense to make sure that you have got the right contractor for the job, that you've got the scope of work specified correctly. And like I said, I feel like I'm on repeat here, but ask for help. Get a specialist, get a contractor, get an engineer to help you put together that RFP. Question number 5, best documentation practice. Verbal agreement, meeting minutes, emails only, text messages. Yeah, everybody's got meeting minutes. And I will say, again, when you're vetting your contractors out, asking them if they have some sort of construction management software for everybody to communicate on, like Buildertrend or Procore or any of the other well-known construction management softwares, they're going to give you internal messaging where everybody's going to be kept in the loop. And that is great documentation. And if they do things like job site reports or like our version is daily logs on their project, that's also going to help you document everything. But obviously, as everybody knows, the more documentation you have, the better. Question number 6. If a budget is unclear, proceed anyway, delay the project, ignore the issue, hire faster. Yeah. Don't feel pressured to go under contract if you have a lot of vague writing. Even if there are unknowns in the project, any contractor should be able to give you at least an idea of possible things that could come up during the project. Any good contractor should be able to give you those. So I'll leave it at that. They should be able to give you those. If they can't, you should be asking why. Yes, there are many things that can come up in construction. However, if they are experienced enough, they have probably seen it before. Odds are, especially in remodeling, we have dealt with it in the past. We should be able to give you some sort of idea. Question 7. Vendor pressure should be accepted, ignored blindly, evaluated carefully, followed immediately. Obviously, yeah, everybody's on the same page here. Yeah. You want to evaluate that carefully. If they're pressuring you, let's find out why. Okay. I can tell you from the builder's standpoint that once a project gets moving forward, we all feel intense pressure from the client side to make sure that the project keeps moving. So there will be that inherent pressure. But if you're feeling like this pressure is them trying to get you to approve change orders that you haven't had enough time to vet and understand fully, absolutely. Reevaluate, pause the job, have meetings, get board members on site if you need to, get a specialist if you need to, review the scopes of work. Scope mismatch means A, continue, B, redesign, C, ignore, D, rush.
Everyone's still with us and
Yep.
unanimous.
And I am sure that everybody has had to deal with scopes of work that do not match up. And unfortunately, as much as some of our board members want to believe, we may have to go back to the drawing board and resubmit RFPs to make sure that everybody is on the same page and they are all quoting the same scope of work. Legal risk increases with planning, documentation, rushed decisions, or delays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't rush into decisions. Again, make sure you understand what's being done on the job. Ask questions. Everybody should be able to answer your questions. And if they don't have an answer for you, they should be able to get one for you. Anything that would require a change order that would require an engineer involved, we should be able to get an engineer involved to answer questions if we need be. So don't be afraid to ask questions. You've got a lot of people to answer to, and you have a big responsibility on your shoulders to protect your residents. The best CAM strategy: speed, control and evaluation, silence, delegation.
They want to say D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. B's across the board.
Yeah.
Okay, good job, everyone. And great job on your first actual CE, continuing education credit. Good job. And thank you all so much for participating today. Again, I'll stay on just for a minute or two longer to answer any questions in the Q&A section. And if not, then go ahead, submit, and we will see you on June 10th. Thanks again.